The session one, the topic is digitalization and industry 4.0, accelerating its pace. And we have very senior people from chemical and petrochemical sector. Let me introduce our esteemed panelists. 2-3 minutes for them. Mr. Bimal Puri, Vice President and CIO, SRF Technical Textiles, a strong Industry 4.0 and digital strategy practitioner. Mr. Bimal Puri has led successful implementation in digital transformation and industrial automation. Our next speaker is Mr. Atul Govind, CTO and Head of IT, India Glycols Limited, who has strong hands of experience in implementing IoT in complex batch and process plants. He has run multiple digital and business transformation projects successfully with world-leading consulting companies in manufacturing domain. Next is Mr. Suresh Nambia, Chief General Manager, Strategic Information Systems, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, with more than 29 years of experience in IT, including his experience in oil and gas. Mr. Suresh Nambia is playing a key role in Indian Oil's digital experience of 32 years. Mr. Partha Sood is responsible for new technology process automation and digital collaboration initiatives for Haldia Petrochemicals complex. Next is Mr. Sunil Patil, Director Solution Consulting, APJ, Aspen Technology. Mr. Sunil Patil has more than 20 years of experience enabling digital transformation across asset and market development of Aspen Tech products and solutions for Asia Pacific Japan region. We also have Dr. Pratap Nair, President and CEO, Ingenero Technologies. Dr. Pratap Nair has been associated with the process manufacturing industry for over 33 years, both as a manufacturer as well as providing innovative technology solutions to manufacturers globally. We also have Mr. Praveen Kapse, Vice President, Global Strategy and Innovation, Tri-Diagonal Solutions. Mr. Kapse has over 20 years of experience in technology solutions across different industry verticals, and with a strong techno-commercial background, he has been implementing large digital transformation programs for various companies. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all for this digitalization and industry 4.0 seminar. And to begin with, I would request so we will have 2 tracks of 4 to 5 minutes each for all the speakers. I would request you to keep the timelines within the tight purview, because we are running neck to neck. Till date, we are only 5 minutes late, and we would like to compensate them before lunch. So, Sir Bipal Puri ji, would request, sir, how do you want to accelerate both digitalization and industry 4.0, and keeping in view the context of the large growth that Indian chemical sector is looking at? So how is our IT team positioned to take care of this? So over to Mr. Bimal Puri.
Thank you, Praveen, for the introduction. And the subject you have chosen is a right subject in today's scenario. And how I take this subject on digitalization and along with the industry 4.0, I mean, we need to see now connecting machines using IoT platforms as one track from a digitalization perspective, right? And this track has to go on a little faster pace compared to the previous speed what industry was following. And the important aspect today is not only capturing a data from the machines on the process data or a machine data, but on the top of it, what quality of analytics we are doing. Okay, so there is a important challenge which is there, which need to be addressed by the industry, is bringing in more data scientists on board to actually go for a quality analytics. Okay, quality means that not a product quality I'm talking, means quality of analysis has to go up drastically, and we should be more predictive, keeping in mind the VUCA environment which is right now there. So you see, like today, some coal issue is there, and the rates are going sky high, or there is a chances things will move here and there. So how I manage such situation proactively by even optimizing my consumptions. Okay, so I mean, that's a level of digitalization is required. And the second important piece which is required in the industry is from the automation perspective. So automation, I'm saying it's basically uh, sometimes people take it in a negative connotation that it's a loss of a job. But believe me, if we have more skilled resources available and the a routine job can be automated, be it a filling of a cylinder, for example, in a chemical industry, if those jobs can be automated and certain skilled people are available, we can support our growth journey with the existing teams. Okay, so we need not to wait for a skilled people to come, learn, and then contribute. So this is another important aspect which we have to take care. And honestly speaking, speaking at various forums and interacting with various industry leaders, it has been not only at a level of IT who is driving, even it is now part and parcel of any business agenda. So it's today it is not aligned with the business; it is in sync with the business goals, which is going. So that's my take on the journey which is there at the current stage for digitalization and Industry 4.0. Because when we talk digitalization, we primarily focus on only IT-based enablement, but it has to now shake hand with the automation also. So that's my take on both the subjects of digitalization and Industry 4.0.
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Atul Govil, who is experimenting a lot on IoT and has also done pilots on digital twins. So let me understand from him how he looks at these two technologies, and also on the other hand, adoption of robotic process automation is there is also a shift which has happened. Chemical cement industry has already gone for it, but chemical industry is looking at this particular RPA in a big way. So I would like to understand from Mr. Atul Govil about IoT, digital twins, and RPA. So over to Mr. Atul Govil for your 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks, and good noon to the entire set of participants, and thanks to Praveenji for having us here. And before I begin, I'll take 30 seconds and just mention that today being an auspicious day, we commence the Navratras today. Best wishes to all participants for Navratras. And on your question, Praveenji, I think one thing I just want to highlight that we are not actually experimenting. So we have actually deployed these IoT solutions, and for almost 2.5 years we've been using it. And it's not just one, we have deployed two set of solutions, one for the operation stream and another for the energy optimization stream. And what I can tell you with our experience in our organization is that the whole COVID situation has actually accelerated adoption of digital. And when I say digital, it's not just around video collaboration or tools to enable secure remote working, but I'm talking about the core technologies like the IoT, industrial IoT, cloud offerings. So we've seen phenomenal exponential adoption, and I'm not talking about the European counterparts. I'm talking about our company. We've seen it here itself. And the company which I work for, we are a diverse product portfolio company, starting from chemicals, as you mentioned. We are also liquor, power, ethanol, pharma, industrial gases. We make medical oxygen, hand sanitizers, guaga. And many of these products and offerings qualify under the essential supplies. So we had to ensure 24/7 operations while also ensuring the health and safety of the workmen. So what we actually, using these IoT deployments, which we had done, and then scaling it out across multiple sections. So what we did is that we've been able to run our operations, support the processes, and also achieve the much needed business continuity while ensuring safe and efficient operations. And also maybe to an extent drive higher reliability of equipment and asset availability. Because with some data points, we were able to predict that if this is the running state, then is it likely to fail, or what could be the situation? So all that with limited availability of shop floor manpower because of the social distancing regulations, norms, and the skeletal supervisory team. So I just want to highlight that using these IoT deployments for our production operation and also for the energy optimization thing, we are now able to monitor different facilities, achieve that due degree of integration upstream and downstream units, and also keep a tab on the specific energy consumptions, which earlier it used to take so much of effort, man hours, man days to collate all that data first from independent individual units and then get it in Excel and then share it through mails. So that timeliness of data was used to go for a toss. And by the time all of that data points used to get collated, it would be 24 hours. The data would have got stale by 24 hours or higher. And so there is little much we could actually do because getting that retrospective information. So now with all this data points and the seamless connectivity across these facilities, we are able to get these data near real time. When I say near real time, it could be a second, 5 seconds lag, but that's inconsequential, so to say. So I would say that these technologies, like in the yesteryears, I recall from 2005 onwards, there was a buzz around, and we have seen ever since we have seen higher adoption of these standardized ERP platforms, be it the Oracles of the world, SAPs of the world, and then Microsoft also came up with something, and companies adopted them to ensure a standardized set of business transactions. But then, if you were to closely look at those platforms, and if you were to reflect, all the transactions linked to production, maintenance, quality control, which are core to manufacturing, were all entered in SAP or such ERP platforms in a post facto, retrospective basis. So the decision was never real time. It was always that you have to reconcile data out there. Now with the required, because the customer demand is changing, the market requirements are changing, you need to have an agile value stream. And to facilitate that, these kind of tools, technologies, I would not qualify them as future technology. These are all current technology. It's very critical to for manufacturing to adopt them, and not as POCs, but as actually, as you stated, pilots, so that they can try out in a smaller section and then scale it out across the thing. And I also want to highlight that we also know of companies at the other end of the spectrum who've using their traditional non-digital setup. They are kind of facing existential crisis as we speak. So it's about either you adopt or you perish. So that's the theme. On RPA, I want to also highlight that robotic process automation is not confined to one or the other industry. Robotic process automation we have also adopted within our enterprise. So for the mundane and repetitive tasks, especially in our financial transactions and all, there we've done pilots, we have done some use cases we have deployed, and it's getting scaled up as we speak. And there are multiple of these companies who have actually created a mandate that we need to have so many of these processes automated in 1 year time and these many in next 3 years time. So they have a mandate, and not just to reduce or optimize manpower, but also to make sure that the transactions become far more effective, efficient, and we achieve higher productivity. So I think broadly these are the themes, Praveen, I just wanted to highlight. Mute, is it?
Thank you, Atulji. Now I would request Mr. Suresh Nambia, CGM Strategic Information Systems, Indian Oil Corporation Limited. So I would request him to talk about the Indian Oil's digital journey, which they are planning in 2021 and 2022, because that will give a better scope of understanding on how oil companies are gearing, or the petrochemical companies are gearing for the future. So over to Mr. Suresh Nambia ji.
Thank you, Praveen. See, as you know, with a vision to be a leader in digital as well, Indian Oil launched an ambitious large-scale digital transformation program, what we call the Project iDrive, Illinois Digital Readiness and IT Vision Enablement Project. That was about 2 years back. To execute the digital strategy on ground, a dedicated digital center of excellence was created, comprising of the IOCL's finest brains and pooled and set up. A three-pronged approach was taken to implement digital. One, to deliver value, deploy enablers, and manage change. So we adopted a business-oriented strategy, identified business problems across all the core business functions, developed solutions to introduce digital interventions, and institutionalized the DCUA. So for the past 2 years, we have been doing transformation, digital transformation, and about 100 plus high impact digital initiatives with 25 plus cutting edge analytics use cases, emerging technology use cases are being implemented, touching about nearly 10,000 plus employees. So these initiatives span 10 business themes. They are what we call bold moves, covering customers, operations, supply chain, and the employees. As you may be also aware, for this cutting edge digital work, IOCL was awarded FIPPI's Digital Company of the Year 2020 and the Digital PSU of the Year 2020 award by Governance Now, with also Head of Digital, Mr. Alok Khanna, also getting the Digital Transformation Leader Award. When we examine the opportunities in our industry, especially oil and gas, analytics plays a very key role. Therefore, in advanced analytics, we unlock the power of AI and ML to develop intricate simulations using historical and real-time data. We identified and prioritized business problems across divisions and have solved them using cutting-edge analytics. We have worked on themes such as improving customer stickiness via focused interventions to enhance customer experience, like the case of APSA, aspect-based sentiment analysis, on customer feedback, reviews, kind of. Then statistics-led customer churn prediction. So these are the marketing front. And also in the refinery side, we have driving yield and availability improvement by unit optimization of multiple process units across multiple refineries, coupled with predictive maintenance models to add value. Improving operational effectiveness was another main thing by driving decision making using AI and ML-based demand forecasting of manpower reduction, man-hours reduction, ML-driven heat exchanger, cleaning, scheduling. These are a few things that can be named. So, in short, these have been very relevant use cases in our digital journey.
Mr. Nambiarji would like to know in future what are the projects or what are the big projects that Indian Oil is working, sir?
See, we have already identified about 80 projects 2 years back. So with that, we have a very clear understanding of what are the main projects that has been to be done. So especially we have major projects that have been already rolled out, and it will we have, as you know, in PSUs we do the tendering. So part of the tendering and it continues. The projects are already formed, and we are also identifying new game-changing projects. In the next 2 years, we intend to identify game-changing digital initiatives.
And are you also looking at machine learning, sir?
Yeah, in that, see, as far as Indian Oil is concerned, we leveraged a platform-centric approach across technologies, such as RPA, AI, AR, VR, and IoT to enhance efficiencies while making their adoption all pervasive. Few notable deployments, I would say, is the RPA automation platform, software bots are automating our manual repetitive tasks. A state-of-the-art AR, VR experience center to augment employee training and assist human workforce in operations is being deployed. Enterprise-wide data lake for managing data sources across the organization. AI-based chatbots which are already on our websites, the customer businesses, the vendors, and the employees. So if you see AI/ML further, AI/ML-led manufacturing can drive significant value. That's what we have identified. Majority of value is driven across, again, yield optimization, yield maximization. ML-based systems are being, with historical data, we have created digital twins of the systems and then for the equipment to visualize, monitor, and control inputs and outputs in real time. Availability improvement and predictive maintenance solutions to direct detect anomalies and anomalous behavior, predict failures, and estimate remaining useful time of an equipment, thereby increasing the uptime. On sustainability, monitoring and prediction of excursions of ambient air, effluent treatment in the refinery especially, improving the water management, heat exchanger cleaning, as I already spoken, cover the environmental aspects and the sustainability. In parallel, as organizations look to be data-driven and adopt advanced analytics, the vital step is to set up a strong foundational data architecture layer that streams and streamlines the data discovery and acquisition from IoT devices and other data sources. So this is achieved by deploying a very robust data management layer coupled with big data tools to manage huge volumes of data, terabytes and petabytes. And variety of unutilized, structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. So a robust data architecture assists setting up an integrated network for application of IoT also, where sensor data is connected to central analytic solutions. And this data layer forms our basis platform for all analytics, future analytics use cases. Hence, this platform-based approach actually improves our posture in digitalization.
Thank you, Suresh Nambiar ji, for your what we can say extensive explanation of all the programs that you are doing within digital transformation. Now, I would request Partha Sood sir, if he can talk about the opportunities in the petrochemical sector, and I would request to learn from him more about the new opportunities that the company is focusing on. So over to Partha Sood sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you, my respected fellow panelists, and I also convey my best wishes the kind of initiative the Indian Chemical News has undertaken, and which is all the more necessary for Indian industry at this point of time, what we experienced after COVID. And I thank you, and I also pray that all your family members and colleagues of yours remain safe, healthy, till we really cross all the difficulties that still we are passing through. So, and then when I come back to the subject that you have raised, see, all of us have really learned a lot from pandemic, and where it has been proved that digitalization is a survival factor, and it has, and also for propelling growth in future. The question is how each and every organization takes benefit out of it, keeping all the stakeholders, the different disciplines, the people across the different verticals, how it is really meshed together to give a, the objectives, and there's a lot of value in it. The itself, the different functions, their metrics, their overall envelope, it's a lot of data that is hanging around. So it is the organization, how it really looks into it and pull them together, keeping long-term business objectives. That's very, very fundamental. So now, giving all that, background, then the question comes, how do we really start? Where from we should start, and what would be the kind of guidelines that you may ought to follow? My suggestions would be that it has to be a line of business. And to start with, there should be a complete communication from the part of the stakeholders, and be honest and take all the people along. That's very, very fundamental, because you'll find it's not my activity. The different departments, different people in the organization, they must be aligned to this. This is a broader, compelling business necessity that must be understood by each and every employees and every stakeholders of the organization. Once that is done, then the question that I was trying to, so that you have to find out, there should be a brainstorming exercise and try to find out which one particular project with a specific timeline and proper objectivity to it. How do we really complete this and show the learning and value it is really accruing from that particular project, and the value that it is delivering. So once that is done, it gives you a very good momentum to run more projects in this system. For chemical and petrochemical particular, you have plenty of opportunities, and these days it is so important. There are many pressures that is also coming on the part of the operating companies. The legislations, environmental legislation, there is a cost pressure. There is a the energy is also another parameter that is driving on it. So it's a high cost as far as Southeast Asian economies, and particularly for India, because we have to bank on everything on the import. So, and we are in that kind of business. And every moment that you lose in the process of your manufacturing or doing business, it is an opportunity, it's a large opportunity. So once that kind of metrics you define and put people along, the question is, what kind of technology that we should select? Is that all technology that we have found in the market that we know is going to serve the purpose? I'm sure it is not. So it is the next part is the selection of technology. Is a kind of organizations that we are into. Based on that, the technology should be sustainable. Then that people should understand. And what kind of platform you are going to create, what kind of infrastructure is going to create. So it is a process by itself. Then once we do that, then we should not take all many projects at a time, one at a time. Do it, show the success factors, and we should not also get disappointed because we have put so much effort, and at the end of the day, the objectivity has not yet been raised. So it is a challenging task in a sense that, remember that the kind of the best brains of India, when this entire other Yojana was put into place, what kind of difficulties all of us have faced, and today it has become a game changer. So every point there will be a hurdles in the conceptual hurdles, there will be a implementation challenges, and there will be organizational challenges. So as organization, how you are going to sustain. So that kind of also we have to think side by side. So it's basically a journey. So from a broader, if you think all that into a common perspective, put them together, and I think to start with, for the quick quiz, it's only not only a complete list, but it is only illustrative. We can start with, an organization can start with particularly chemicals and petrochemicals, health, safety, environment. One of the initiative could be that one. Then comes the process safety. Process safety, one of the biggest challenge that in recent time that India has witnessed, starting from LG, incident in Vizag, Visakhapatnam, in the one or two incident in the part of Gujarat. So these are all happening. Basically, that is shaking up the entire engineering fraternity. So we can make use of this. This is one of the things that it is going to deliver a lot of value in it. Then comes the energy optimization and how we are going to do that, monitoring and optimization. Then the another object is like, your very good system is to start with. These are all complex, but you have to tie them together. The gate pass system, it is the material movement, it is the people, the contractor, the visitors. How do you manage that? And how you really link all these activity with your manufacturing, the material in and out, the logistics. So entire thing, the gate pass system, how you are really going to manage. So this brings a lot of discipline into the enterprise operations. Now, once that is done, you can move into the next level, one after the other, the production accounting. Okay, as I said, the energy optimization, the another. Then the reliability center, the one of the the key objective area could be like reliability centered initiatives. The key critical equipments which are make and break kind of scenario for any organization. You can really build on it. It is going to give a lot of insightful information so that you don't fall out abruptly and come back. You take a decision, give a good amount of insightful information based on that you act, so that you don't come out of the business. So these are only a few that I have in the supply chain, how you really integrate. So I'm just giving illustrative examples so that you the entire chemical and petrochemical fraternity can really look into and make a system so that so that it becomes a foolproof, it is standing on expertise and real-time information based on which you really decide and act quickly so that you don't miss even an hours in terms of your productivity, your safety incident, and the order. So it's very difficult for any organization, it's saying very.
So we will come back to you, Partha Sood, sir.
So with that, I think with that, I'd like to very simple, and these are the broad areas we can start with as far as application area of digitalization is concerned.
Thank you, Partha Sood, sir. After having heard two people from the chemical industry, two people from the petrochemical industry, we have the solution providers with us. So now I would request people from AspenTech, people from Ingenero, and people from TriDiagonal to do a dissect and bisect how whatever the challenges that they had talked about, whatever the programs in terms of digital transformation that they are doing, how will they help them? So let me ask Sunil Patil, Director, APJ Solution Consulting, AspenTech. So I wanted to understand from him, like how will these, whatever that these companies are doing will drive value, and out of that value, how will those value lead to increase in revenue or increase in profit for the chemical and petrochemical companies? So over to Mr. Sunil Patil.
Yeah. Thank you, Pravinji. Good afternoon, everyone. As you rightly said, we already heard about the challenges shared by the fellow panelists. So let me give my views on this, as you rightly said, from a technology provider's point of view, right? So I think what we heard, right, from the panelists as well as from the industry, right? Today, everyone is on digitization journey, right? Needless to say, there is a client who is still dreaming about digitization. Everyone is far ahead in this journey. And obviously with an objective of improving the business performance and having greater agility and resilience, right? So what has already been changed, right? It's not that people are changing. I think you heard from Indian Oil and Mr. Gavitji and Partha Sood already mentioned about their digitization journey, right? So from an AspenTech point of view, what I believe that we have a joint responsibility to work together to advance our industries to achieve the digitization journey, right? As most of you know, right? I mean, we serve the industry that deliver products and that are critical to the economy of the nation, right? And mostly what we try to address is the industries which serve the economy of the nation, and at the same time we want to ensure that industries we serve, they operate safely. I think most important, giving most important value to sustainability, as well as this is very critical, maximum return to the shareholders, right? That those are the key things, right? So looking at this current, what we called from an Aspen point of view, VUCA environment, which stands for volatile, very increasing volatile environment, uncertainties there, complexity as well as ambiguity in the environment, how these companies with the different available technologies like AspenTech can achieve their digital journey to maximize their return to the shareholders, right? So here we focused and heard some challenges from customers, right? What industries we serve today, and most important for us that from AspenTech point of view, how we can help them to address these challenges, right? Our mission purpose is very clear, right? We want to help our customers to accelerate the digital transformation that is very essential to run their assets, most importantly, as I said earlier, most safely, taking care of the sustainability things, and as well as Partha talked about energy and other aspects, and reliability. I think he's mentioned about reliability as well, right? So AspenTech Solutions, we are building our portfolio, which are mission critical in the digitization journey of our customers, right? Obviously, the goal is to provide a holistic approach to achieve an entire asset digitized, right? Not just a process or unit, but an entire asset. So when we say entire asset, we cover end to end, like right from design, operations, all the way up to the maintenance and sustainability of the plant, right? So at a nutshell, we provide a broad portfolio which cut across the entire asset optimization life cycle, wherein we bring in not just a domain expertise and technology. You heard a lot about AI ML. Mr. Nambiarji talked about how they are leveraging AI for the heat exchanger fouling monitoring, so on. So Aspen brings in our domain expertise together with the industrial AI ML solutions, and we combine them together, what we called as an industrial AI. And you leveraging that, we actually help to completely digitize the assets and optimize the assets, right? So we have, at a high level, we have three different portfolios, right? Engineering solution, which cut across your design, sustainability, safety, and reliability issues. Then manufacturing and supply chain, which takes care of our asset optimization. It will be an advanced process control. You heard about that. Be it in planning and scheduling and so on. And most importantly, is the reliability of the asset, right? Predictive and prescriptive maintenance. And these are the things people talk about, and they're trying to look at the solutions towards predictive and prescriptive, right? So in summary, right, what I'm trying to say, leveraging solutions from a company like AspenTech, right? Most of our clients achieve a significant value and benefits, right? So in the interest of time, I may not be able to talk, but I think there are examples where companies have improved 1 to 3% of yield improvement, energy reduction between 5 to 10%, as well as the overall profitability improvement in a significant value. I mean, in $1 million, there are examples or references available, right? Leveraging our, what we call a digital twin solutions, right? We are further able to enhance our customers' productivity, improve the asset optimization. And what we try to do here is we try to integrate right from design, operations, all the way up to the entire end-to-end optimization we're trying to. And again, when we do that, what we do is we actually help customers build a solution which fits for their purpose, right? Not one solution solves all problems, right? So we have to have a fit for purpose application, and it is not again just historically or traditionally people use this process simulation or that AIoT technology or this. So we bring in AI ML together with simulation, process optimization, advanced process control, all in one platform, with helping our customers to achieve the journey. What we call is the self-optimization plan, SOP, right? That's the word which is going forward to be. And that's an AspenTech vision to help our customers to get a maximum return and help to achieve this, what we call is the self-optimization journey of the process industries.
Sunilji wanted to understand from you, are you happy with the digital transformation journey of chemical and petrochemical companies, or do you see that there is more which can happen? Just 30 seconds of your...
Sure. I think there's definitely more can be happen. I think as we said, right, people are on their own journey, but I think there are two sides of it. One, either leveraging the data, but having this data, what I'm going to do that? Unless I have any insights, that data is not going to help, right? So there are a lot of things to do. And some of the things which I talked is about building a fit for purpose solution, bringing AI ML together with the first principle or domain expertise together, and that's probably solve the biggest problem of industry, right? Not just having the data, but bring the intelligence, AI, ML, advanced analytics, and the technologies together into the one platform. That's how we look into the industry.
Thank you, Sunil Patilji. Now I would request Dr. Pratap Nair, President and CEO, Ingenero Technologies, And sir, you are also focusing in the same universe of AI and ML, and your focus is mainly restricted to petrochemicals and refining. You heard the stalwarts of petrochemicals and refining. So what is it that you would plan to offer on the AI and the ML part, sir? Dr. Pratap Nair.
Yeah, and we've actually been working with several of our clients for the past 7-8 years in along these digitalization initiatives, and we've actually implemented a lot of these AI ML solutions for various different applications. So, what does AI ML do for for the industry? I mean, it's applicable in various different, going from R&D, design, operations to all the way to sales and marketing, and Mr. Nambiar, mentioned some examples there. So what it really does is it enables more complex analysis to be done. There's lots of data that's available, like Mr. Partha Sur was saying. I mean, there's no dearth of data. So being able to handle that data and analyze it in a complex way and come with insights or augmented intelligence, as we call it, key is in a timely manner. Again, I know Atul mentioned that that's a big difference that has happened. So things that originally, traditionally you would only know maybe after the fact, you're able to get it almost near real time with a lot of the complex analysis that has already gone in, and so you get a truth. So that is really what AI ML enables. So it's a combination again of using the latest techniques in deep learning, machine learning, combining it with your traditional knowledge. Now, why would you do it? Of course, it really, from our applications, what we've seen, there's tremendous improvements in reliability, yield, production, safety, and sustainability. Of late, there's a lot of sustainability aspects that are coming into any digitalization. This thing. So, what it helps do on one dimension is it helps automate road tasks, and like Mr. Bimal Puri was saying, that it doesn't mean you're replacing the jobs, you're slimming and shifting and reskilling people to do higher level jobs. So some of the examples, just to pull some examples of where we've done implementations. I'll take more of the process manufacturing space, where there's kind of a change. We call something called dynamic benchmarking. It's possible now, where for any type of operation that you're running right now, given all the conditions, you're immediately able to see, have you really done better with the same conditions before, somewhere historically? It's there, available to you in real time. And if so, is it because of some changes to your equipment which you have to fix, or is it some settings? So this actually has been found to be very, very useful for a lot of our customers. So again, being able to do this in real time makes a huge difference, and you get tremendous benefits. Another area is, again, for example, furnace run lengths. Being able to, at any point in time, if you're able to see how much more of remaining run length is there, instead of, again, being an after the fact, what you can do is, of course, other than adjusting to make sure you can further maximize it, there's also the thing that, okay, if I have so much extra time that is available to me, let me change my downtime schedule on that. So I'll take it for decoking maybe a little later. So again, what we call maintenance by exception, rather than doing it just at a fixed time. Again, you can increased uptime, increased production happens. Then things like soft sensors, where instruments are notorious. So being able to, even if some instruments drop off, being able to continue to understand, okay, this is really what the likely reading is. based on other intelligence that is there, other readings that are there. So these are some of the examples, and these are some of the ways in which AI ML can improve the general application and use in the industry.
Thank you, Dr. Nair. Now let us listen to Praveen Kapse. Wanted to know, there are some companies who are in the initial stage of digitalization in the chemical sector. So what are the challenges that you foresee for those companies and why they are late to start? So over to Mr. Praveen Kapse.
Sure, and thank you, Praveen, and hearing our co-panelists. I think they covered pretty well, I think, right from Mr. Puri to Mr. Sur as well. So they have spoken about the key aspects, right, the challenges we see. As a solution provider, right, when we interact with the customer, I completely agree with Sunil as well here, right, what are the challenges, right, people see? So, of course, everyone is embarking this massive digital transformation journey now, right? And the real opportunities lies in either it's vertical value chain or horizontal value chain. I think most of the panelists covered that, okay? But there are many companies who are just at the cusp of, right, initiating their transition, right? So we have seen, just to compare with other industries like automotive, aerospace, and other discrete manufacturing, the success of the solutions being implemented in the last 10 years, whether it is project lifecycle management to even the industry 4.0 tech stack, the key reason was, the data integration, interoperability standards, and then the solutions have been implemented. So I think one key challenge in the chemical industry, what we see is not everyone is at that level, right? If you compare it with other industries, so everyone is starting their journey, and the key challenge is where to start, right? As Mr. Arthur Sur explained really well, where to start, how to start. So these are definitely the key challenges. Another driver, right, which is definitely imposed on many companies is there is a shift in landscape of chemicals and materials, right? One, the increased awareness of the consumers on sustainability. So, the industry is focusing on technology adoptions like decarbonization. They're trying to re-examine their assets, right, and trying to identify where are the opportunities and how you can adapt those technologies. So technology is available, right? So that's not a challenge. And thanks to all this, the solution providers today, whether it's industrial automation companies to the solution providers, companies and consulting companies and so on and so forth. So technology is available. How do you extract value out of it? That is the key here. Okay, so I really liked one point which Mr. Puri mentioned. Apart from the technology integrations, the culture is very, very important part. It should not be confined to just the few expert teams. It has to spread across the entire stakeholders, right up to the operator level. So it's a new way of life, right? So it depends on the company's thinking, whether they want to be leaders in it. Like it's like the saying, right? Who makes it happen versus let it happen to us, right? Like smartphones, it's happening to us. There's no choice, right? So it's inevitable for sure. So how company initiate their journey, that is the key aspect here. And typically everyone talk about return on investments, right? ROIs. So there is like many customers when we interact with. So yes, this is the first question we hear is, okay, what is the ROI I'm going to get? Okay, but it's entirely new thing for them, and definitely they want to be sure about their investments. But if you really see on the positive and negative ROIs, so positive ROI is of course the return on investments, but the negative ROI is return on ignorance. So if you ignore this for quite a long time, anyway you're losing money by not implementing these technologies. But yes, the technology is there, as I said again, and it's all about how you structure your roadmap, right? And also integrating the process technology and operations technology when it comes to manufacturing analytics at the end of the day. IT is there. We always hear about IT and OT integration, but now when it comes to chemical process industry, it's always about PT and OT, and IT is there to enable that at the end of the day. But yes, taking the holistic view, it's very, very key aspect here. How do you do vertical and horizontal integrations, right? Using Industry 4.0 tech stacks. And there are too many enablers, right? How do you select the right solutions depending on your needs, right? Where what are those short-term, mid-term, as well as long-term objectives? So I think that is all which the companies have to be aware of. And to start their journey, they should be definitely picking those areas where they can start right away. Because at the end of the day, any solutions that's deployed, the consumers are going to monitor them, right? Because data is available, we move from data to information and information to insights. So everything is monitoring. Today, the operators are monitoring the HMIs, right, of SCADA systems, but using AI, ML, advanced algorithms, they can do advanced visualization, right? So they are monitoring current state of the systems. They can monitor the events, okay, and they can even monitor our performance of the operators. So all those categories of use cases, which the other people mentioned, pretty well fit in these three buckets. So everything is monitoring, but using this underlying technology. So I think yes, understanding this entire roadmap is very, very critical. Where to start and which solutions to embrace is very good, because we sometimes get overwhelmed with the technology. So much of things are happening around. So how do you choose or ignore the hype and check, do the reality check at the end of the day?
Thank you, Mr. Praveen Kapse. We have ended the first track. There are few quiz questions for the delegates. So I would request delegates to please listen to this question carefully, and one who answers the first will get an Amazon voucher from Indian Chemical News. And I will pose two questions to our delegates, and I would request them to please type on the please type their answers. So my first question to the delegates: what is the full form of COP? COP. What is the full form of COP? I hope though they are typing their questions. And my second question to the delegates is, then this is for people who have visited our platform. So it's a very simple question, and if they would have visited our platform, they would be able to tell this. How many exhibitors booth are there in the Next Gen Chemicals and Petrochemicals Summit 2021? I repeat, how many exhibitors booth are there in the Next Gen Chemicals and Petrochemicals Summit 2021? I see all smiling faces. I have put a very simple question, sir, so that at least it's lunchtime. So before they go for lunch, they are able to answer this and make. We wanted to keep a smile on their faces. Now I'm going to reverse the order. I would now request Praveen again to talk about, and what I'm asking here from Praveen and Pratap Nair and Mr. Sunil Patil is, what are your expectations from the industry? Because the industry people are here, and this is a platform where you can speak, where you can talk and also understand what their requirements are, and what is it that is differentiating, or what is it that is not able to, you are not able to provide some solutions. And sustainability is one big factor which is coming out, and everybody is now focusing on sustainability. So keeping that into view, I would request Praveen, if you can focus on this particular aspect, on what are your expectations from the industry and what sustainable solutions is Tri-Diagonal providing. So over to Mr. Praveen Kapse. I would request, sir, we are only 20 minutes left. So let us be, because the first round took a lot of time. Now I wanted to squeeze you. So I would request everybody, all the speakers, to be on point, and whatever other speakers have already mentioned, don't repeat it. Please talk on the new points which you can think of. So over to Mr. Praveen Kapse.
Thank you, Praveen, and thank you for reversing the order. So I could be the first one in the second track. Yes, what are the expectations from the industry? Yes, what again our experience when we meet different customers and we start the discussion on this entire digital transformation. So one expectation is they should definitely understand this is a strategic initiative. It's a long-term initiative, right? Sometimes we get trapped into, oh, I need a particular solution, right? And they start evaluating the tools or technologies, right? Oh, I need digital twin. Okay, I need maybe a golden batch profiler, right? Kind of solutions. So they are missing out on the entire objectives of the digital transformation. What our Industry 4.0 can do for you, right? So that is very, very important aspect. So when it again comes to, right, what kind of outputs we are going to expect. Anyway, maintenance may be expensive. I'm just quoting one a statement here, right? But the failure cost is 5 to 10 times more. So there is enough proven solutions and technologies in the Western world we see. So it's all about understanding that, making your own roadmap, and then start implementing these solutions, right? So second point you mentioned about the sustainability. Again, it's very, very important how Industry 4.0 enable the sustainability, right? So all those use cases mentioned by our other co-panelists are in the sustainability areas, of course, there where you start collecting the data and start monitoring. But just I want to highlight one thing, right, which other companies in the Western world are doing. So it's all about the triple bottom line, right? So it's when I say triple bottom line, we know only about one bottom line, that is profit. The second one is, of course, the people, and third one is planet. So what we are seeing, the companies are implementing this as a triple bottom line initiative at their end. Okay, so when it comes to the profits, okay, how you can efficiently run your operations using the Industry 4.0 tech stack, right? Whether it is predictive maintenance to asset utilization to and so on and so forth. Second aspect, when it comes to people, it's very, very important how you have the process safety in place. So all the robotics applications we are seeing, or even the remote monitoring, right, or advanced process controls solutions. But other aspects is definitely the safety, which is linked to the people, how you give them an environment using the technology. And third important thing is the planet, right? So very important how you control your emissions and also the waste, right, at the end of the day using technology. But yes, the Industry 4.0 solutions enables by looking into the non-optimized assets or processes and using these technologies like AI, ML, you can start building those soft sensors, start monitoring those use cases, right, or outputs of your processes, and tightly monitor those to keep that in the limit, so you have better control on your emissions and really focus on that triple bottom line at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen Kapse. Now I request Dr. Pratap Nair. Sir, when we are talking about sustainability goals within the chemical and petrochemical sector, there are many things which can go to meet the sustainability part of it. So how are you going to define those buckets first, so that it is becoming easier for the chemical companies to understand? And the second is, once they achieve, how do you integrate so that they can gain maximum from this sustainability part that the companies are talking about? So over to Pratap Nair, Dr. Pratap Nair.
Thank you, Praveen. Yes, of course, today, everyone's on the sustainability bandwagon, and rightly so. When I look at sustainability, and this is, we've been having a lot of discussions, along with our clients at several different levels. I view it, I call it actionable sustainability. There are three parts to it. One is, what do you do with your existing assets? What's the best I can do with my existing assets? Improving operational efficiencies, improving your emissions footprint, so on. So those are things, again, that's one part which can immediately be tackled. And there we have also seen, and that kind of shoehorns in with your digitalization. It's a matter of focusing on some of those KPIs. Earlier, in the past, it was okay. We just have to operate profitably. Yes, you have to operate profitably, safely. So sustainability KPIs can be done in conjunction. And that increasingly we are seeing, whether it's reduction in wastewater, reduction in emissions, energy efficiency. So that's one part. Then there's another part. I mean, you hear projects, right? So the second part I view is defining projects, just like you define debottlenecking projects. Projects that can be done in a relatively short term to improve your sustainability KPIs. So that's another part. So again, digitalization to help better designs, to help faster designs is really helpful. And the third part of actionable sustainability is strategic decisions, making investments for 2030 plus, which is very important to do and think right now. May not be a short-term thing. This is where things like CCUS, complete change in product portfolios. And again, here where digitalization helps is doing things faster, just like you had how the vaccines came to the market faster. So there are aspects of digitalization that help come up with better processes and so on. So certainly this has been our experience, and this is how we're working with companies, helping them. And these are the three buckets, if you will. But looking at it in a structured way, instead of just going all over the map, we found to be very helpful for at least our customers.
Thank you, Dr. Pratap Nair. Sunil Patel ji, your company has been making a lot of noises on sustainability, and what we have seen is there are a lot of announcements that you are making with respect to what we can say tying up with a lot of companies,
Right.
And it's becoming a very big project for you all. So how do you look at the Indian scenario, and what kind of solutions will be helpful? So in a nutshell, if you can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. I think Pratap and Mr. Kapse already talked few things which I'm going to mention, but I think let me explain, right? I think from an AspenTech point of view, let me share one of the recent survey which ARC has conducted. It's available in their report, right? I think from a sustainability point of view, right? I think what the survey is basically about how valuable about the different technologies available in the market, which helps customers to improve the sustainability, right? And if I look at the survey, I think around 200 companies participated, and more than 85% companies said it's a topmost priority. So that actually gives you an idea, right? Basically, how sustainability is most important, right? And of course, same goes with AspenTech, right? So I think we talk a lot on digitization, which supports companies to transform and find new or better ways to doing the things. But at the same time, it's not just, I think Pratap already mentioned, it's not just about the maintenance or profitability, it's about realizing the sustainability as well. And that's most important. From an AspenTech point of view, our solutions helping customers to address a lot of sustainability challenges, right? Be it a carbon capture, hydrogen economy, CCCS, or it could be a combination of developing a different new technologies, right? People are coming up with a lot of new sustainability technologies in the industry, but they also have to evaluate economic feasibility of those technologies. So we are working with those technology companies as well. And I think the other important aspect is the operational excellence, right? While we ensure that optimization and the volatility and all other things, right? At the same time, I think it's important that how safer and greener that we talked about, but at the same time, how we are helping to achieve the sustainability goal in order to reduce the carbon emission, the hydrogen economy, and so on, right? I think one last point what I wanted to share here is, right, what do we expect from the companies is I think we heard about pilots and POCs and things like that. I think today the technologies are mature, they are available. I think it is good to accelerate our digitization journey, right, in order to be really achieving your goals for the digitization as well as the sustainability. And also our expectation, I think every company announces their net zero targets, right? Everyone has some 2030, 2040, 2050, and so on. If we have those targets in place and KPIs defined, probably in collaborate with technology companies like AspenTech, probably that would really help you to achieve your goals for both digitization as well as the sustainability.
And if you can touch on digital twin for a minute or so.
Sure. From our point of view, right? So digital twin is basically is a digital profile of an asset, right? Looking at the historical data, current performance, and how does my future behavior of the plant or asset looks like, right? So it is about connecting the plant, the people, and the technology, right? And from an AspenTech point of view, the way we define is a digital profile of an entire asset into a modeling environment, right? And from that point of view, like be it an asset or a unit or operation, we help customers to deploy the digital twins in a real-time environment, what we call as a real-time optimization and so on, right? There are several examples. For example, distillation columns is a key unit operation in any process industry, right? But the challenge here is the most energy consuming unit operation, but are we really able to operate the plant in the most efficient way? Because hydraulic visualization in itself is a big challenge, right? So there are several such things, right? We have deployed number of digital twins across this chemical and petrochemical industries in India and worldwide, and our technology really helped them achieve not just to address the troubleshooting or the optimization challenges, but also to get a significant benefits using the digital twins.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sunil Patilji.
Thank you.
Now I would request Partha Sood, sir. And now the other way around is you have heard the solutions on the sustainability and digital twins. So I wanted to understand from you, and I need short answers now, is if you can talk about what kind of sustainability projects are you planning or is in the pipeline, and what kind of digital twins are you thinking of? So if you can give more of a point-wise reply, it would be helpful for everybody in the audience.
Yeah, very good afternoon. Once again, thank you. When you talk about sustainability, it's a buzzword, and every organization is really trying to gather what kind of activity that is really needed and to become sustainable. I see sustainability, what we see the sustainability is from an operating company and the future, what the company is thinking going forward. So there is a widespread perception that the sustainability is, there are three parts of it. It's the economy, it is the society, and it is the employment. So and how all these three aspects put together when we take on embark on this kind of journey, and secondly, we also have a different being particularly for the technical community, there is a widespread perception that there is a lot of unlimited capacity in the environment, which is just opposite. Environment has a limited capacity. So when we are operating, designing, and thinking futuristic, all of us need to make a very specific effort to bring these two systems together when we are converting a natural resources. So the most optimum way that really define the life on below, life in water, life above water, and on the soil. So how really put all these factors together in the designing operations, whether it is a normal operations or in a turnaround. So any kind of activity that we have been doing, there is a linkage. And how do you really, in order to be sustainable, you have to be excellent in business. My fellow panelists, Dr. Pratap and Mr. Kapse, as well as Mr. Patil has given very beautiful connotations on sustainability, where one of the thing is the sustainability is nothing but augmented intelligence. And this digital platform is going to give us that kind of, exposure and the variability and the breadth and depth and breadth of the entire activity you can really put on a common platform. It is the KPI, it is the dashboard, and it is the real-time action plan triggering out of this entire ecosystem, the platform that we are talking about, the digital platform. So when these are the very, very fundamental things, and make no mistake, the coming days are going to be very, very hard. Even you are going for any kind of arranging finance, people are going to look for, what is your sustainability index? You have to give this in order to seek your own loan.
Sir,
I'll not be surprised.
Another 30 seconds for you, sir.
Yeah. I'll not be surprised. Even the buyers, they are going to ask you what is your sustainability index in order for partnering for long-term business. So in a nutshell, that entire digitalization, the initiative, or it is a mandate, or it is the fulcrum for success for any company who want to survive in the coming 20-year decade. They have to go full blast on a digital platform, and that is the way future business, whether it is a turnaround, whether it is a normal operations, or even the new future product slate that you are going to embark on a new project. So everything together, I think that one theme is how you bring down your carbon footprint, how you bring your energy consumption down, and so that you remain, and ultimately cost. Everything put together, it gives you operational excellence and the right kind of lever to be sustainable in the future.
Thank you, Partha Surji. And now I would request Suresh Nambiar ji. Sir, if you can illustrate some of the new projects on the sustainability that you are focusing on.
Yeah. See, regarding the sustainability, see what we see. IOC has been in the forefront in solarization of our retail outlets, 30,000 plus. We have our bottling plants, LPG bottling plants, which have actually been now solarized, and then we actually feed it into the power grid. So we get the credits and the carbon emissions I already mentioned about the ETP, ambient air monitoring. We have this statutory regulations of the CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, who actually monitors, and there is an online system by which every refinery's data are related to the COD, BOD, the sulfur content, as well as the ambient air. Also, the ETP, that is effluent that is coming out from the refineries, that is also monitored. So these techniques are available. We have our own systems, monitoring systems, which actually pre-warns about any excursions in such systems of carbon emissions. We also have, as you know, we have this EV, we are focusing on electric vehicles and batteries. So we have a tie-up with Finergy, batteries. Hydrogen is another one which Indian Oil is pursuing. We have actually experimented. Our R&D center has actually hydrogen combined with CNG vehicles are actually flying, and we are experimenting. So that way, as a whole, we have a lot of initiatives that are related to sustainability. Sustainability, we have another department for that matter, and we have a complete monitoring system by which you can actually produce of the carbon footprints that is being monitored at a very macro and micro level.
So thank you, Suresh Nambiar ji. And before I go to Atul Govil, because he was next, I thought of keep him waiting because he has an interesting last minute say to say. So I would request Bimal Puri ji, if you can talk about some of the sustainability initiatives, which would be helpful for the chemical industry, and presently they are not pursuing. So if you can talk about that. If you can unmute yourself, Bimal ji.
Yes, Praveen. So if we talk about sustainability and correlating the same concept for with digital twin. So if you ask me, we have been using this concept for our operations. And in some cases, we are using it for training the employees or test new products. And even now we are using a similar kind of a concept for optimizing our consumptions, which ultimately not only lead to a cost reduction, plus also optimize utilization of resources, leading to a reduced carbon footprint uh, as a process. So these are the various initiatives which we are taking, and now we are working on certain things like augmented reality and how can we use 3D modeling for creating a digital twin kind of environment for our
Yeah.
some of the parts which are used on a shop floor or can be built using a 3D model. So these are the few initiatives which we are thinking how to make it workable for our other than our normal AI and ML model concepts.
Our last speaker for the second track is Atul Govind ji, and the basic problem that is being faced by chemical companies is a lot of decisions are being taken from the top, and I'm putting broadly this question to also others, and I'm here talking about Mr. Sunil Patil ji, Pratap Nair ji, and Praveen Kapse ji. Is a lot of decisions are being taken at the CXO level, and that's where right stakeholders having that knowledge is also better for the company, and it becomes extremely difficult for quick and effective decisions, because first of all they do not understand in the same way. So how it can be simplified, and I'm asking this to all four of you, 30 seconds for each, how it can be simplified so that quicker decisions can be taken and the company can benefit from that whole process, so that we can also move faster, and it's not that after a few years they realize, okay, since we have not taken a decision, it was a wrong decision on our part. So it needs a lot of simplification which needs to be done. So let me understand from Mr. Atul Govind 30 seconds, and then 30 seconds to all the others, and then we will move. So over to Mr. Atul Govind.
Yeah, I think quickly, one thing which organizations are learning is that one important aspect is, of course, experience, but the other aspect is the expertise. And what we clearly see is, particularly in chemical, petrochemical setups, most of the experienced guys are near superannuation, and it's very important to capture their expertise and kind of digitize to that extent, so that it helps companies to sustain and grow further. Otherwise, with these individuals superannuating, you would not have the expertise to drive these plants and create sustainable operations. Having said that, I also want to quickly highlight that it's not just around operations. Sometimes initiatives like smart warehousing, which we did, it actually helps you optimize on the spend on material handling equipments, the spend on diesels, so that if you have smart warehousing solutions, smart fleet management, all that also brings that degree of sustainability efforts to action. And with adoption of these electric vehicles within the plant as also. And last but not the least, I think energy optimization, if you see as a lever, that's another area. If you were to pitch it to the CXOs, that these areas can help us run our plant more optimally, and this is the cost advantage. And so that profitability, where will profitability come from? You have to optimize on your cost, or you get a better price for a product. Getting a higher price for a product is not always the case, unless it's a monopolistic kind of a market. So wherein you need to continually optimize. So cost optimization is one aspect. on terms of the energy spent. Another is on definitely losses minimization, because many a times most KPIs which plants operate on is functioning on that, know how much throughput you have, what is the yield, but they don't look at the losses part. So I think these are the areas no technology can help enable in a far effective manner. Yeah.
Praveen Kapseji, if you can give your 30 seconds and then
Yes.
follow it up with Sunil Patilji and Dr. Pratap Nair at the end.
Yes, I think you touched upon a very interesting point here, Praveen. Right, the decisions are linked to only the senior management, right? The CXO level team. I think the important thing here is to really form the task force, okay? And it should have different stakeholders. The IT is there, the process technology teams, the operations teams, and once you form this task force, they have to definitely a lot of upskilling programs. That's what we are seeing in the Western world. People are forming these groups. They are going through a lot of skilling programs so that they are able to make that digital roadmap for themselves, right? Across, again, I repeat, across the vertical and horizontal value chains. So I think forming a task group and having the right mix, combination of teams is going to make this digital transformation successful.
Sunil Patilji,
Yeah.
your 30 seconds.
Yes, sir, sure. So I think from our experience, I think you are right. Important is to get alignment with the C-level people, but I think they are equally worried about the complexity of the technologies. And I think Praveen and Atulji already mentioned about the people, right? So having a right skill sets, because experienced people are superannuating, as Atulji said. So what they're really worried about the simplicity of the technology, like what we define as a digital reference architecture, right? If we have an examples, references, where it is defined in a very simple way, and at the same time, if we have a plan in place for a competency development of the people, probably that would help or ease the process for them to move forward very quickly. Rather than making talk a lot of buzzwords like AI and ML and this and that, it should be having a very simple digital reference architecture with and references and the plan in place to develop a competency. Probably that would help. You are muted, Praveenji.
Pratap Nair, the last word. 30 seconds, sir.
Yes. So I think it's equally important to have both. This is from our experience, the C-level attention as well as workforce engagement. Sometimes some of these initiatives are driven by the CIO's office, but having the business stakeholder involved, because at the end of the day, you need to be very clear what are you trying to achieve, the objective, the business objective. So getting that together requires a combination like a task force, having both the C-level continued attention for sustainability, particularly initially. There has to be a change in, from gut feel decisions to data analytics driven decisions. So those kind of things require both the workforce engagement as well as the C-level attention. So this is what we found, and these kind of projects have been very successful with engagement both top and at the ground level.
So I would like to thank all my panelists with the bottom of my heart that they have been able to. We started 5 minutes late, and we are only 5 minutes late. We are more than 5 minutes late. Let me announce the winners. For question number 1, which was with respect to the full form of COP. The answer is Conference of Parties, and the winner is Mr. Rishabdeep Singh. The designation is New Product and Business Development, and the company name is SRF Limited. The second winner for question number 2 was how many exhibitors booths are there in Next Gen Chemicals and Petrochemical Summit? It's 11. And the winner is Rosina, Senior Research Technologist from Praz Limited. And to both these delegates, we will send you the Amazon voucher through a digital platform, and you will receive it shortly. So many congratulations to the winners. I would now thank all my panelists, Mr. Bimal Puri, Vice President and CIO, SRF Technical Textiles, Mr. Atul Govil, CTO and Head, India Glycols Limited, Mr. Suresh Nambia, CGM Strategic Information Systems, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, Mr. Partha Sood, General Manager Technology, Haldia Petrochemicals Limited, Mr. Sunil Patil, Senior Director Solution Consulting, APJ Aspentech, Dr. Pratap Nair, President and CEO, Ingenero Technologies, and Mr. Praveen Kapse, Vice President, Global Strategy and Innovation, Tri-Diagonal Solutions. So many thanks, sir, for a very lucid presentation on digitalization and Industry 4.0. I take leave. In the meanwhile, there will be a networking break, and then we will start the next session at 2 o'clock to 3:30, which is on Indian CMSR technical session. So many thanks and dhanyavad.